Mark, why are you special?
That's a good question. I would say I'm not special. If anything, probably a special talent I would have, and I took it from the military. I just pretty much outwork everybody. That's a big thing I learned from the military, and not having college and not having a lot of the different accolades that civilian people look towards. I've kind of had to harness of outworking people. So it's not special. It's just something I learned throughout my life, I would say.
You got some grit to you.
Yeah. Some grit. I guess that's what you call it. Not knowing any better. Yeah, grit they can say that. They say that in the interview. I say it's grit in the interview, but it's really just fear of failure, I would say, and not wanting to fail. You know what I mean?
I'm Herb Thompson, a Green Beret and resolutionist.
And I'm Corrie Thompson, Herb's less hairy half and branding expert.
Our guests come from various backgrounds, but one thing is true. They are special. Infantry from the Army, veteran, did mechanized at 82nd Airborne. Shout out to all those that jump out of airplanes.
Yeah.
Multiple deployments overseas.
Yeah.
After that, into software sales. I'm sure we'll dive into that.
Yeah.
And then, is the correct term movie producer? Or what would you prefer that be called?
Yeah, movie producer. I mean, in the indie circuit, you kind of do a lot, right? But definitely probably more on the producing side, the business side of it, and think of it like a project manager. You've done project managing, right? I'm not really directing, I'm not really acting, but I'm kind of overseeing everything. It's kind of how I would explain it, right?
Yeah, let's dive into, let's go back, turn back time a little bit. What led you to join the Army?
Oh, that's a good question. So I would say I wasn't really good at anything growing up. I was 155 pounds, soaking wet on a good day, wearing ankle weights, and loved football, but I wasn't that athletic. School wasn't for me. I hated being in a classroom. I still hate being in a classroom today. It drives my boss nuts when we do training. I just can't do it. I start getting antsy. I start wandering like a lost puppy. So it took me 5 years to get out of high school. They liked me so much they invited me back for another year.
They kept you an extra year.
Yeah, I was the Van Wilder of Stonewall Jackson High School, now Unity Reed. But I can remember, I'm a military brat, right? I was born in Panama, so a lot of people don't know that about me. I was born overseas in Panama. My dad was stationed there. So actually when my mom was pregnant with me, there were mortars dropping in the backyard. So I was kind of born in the war, I guess you can say. Moved to around the Pentagon. My dad was stationed in the Pentagon, so we moved in the Alexandria, Mount Vernon area. So we did that, did his 20 years. We moved to Kingstown. And then right after the towers hit, we moved to Manassas, right? So my mom and dad split up. I was with my mom, moved to Manassas, and I effing hated school. I was miserable. I didn't want to do it. Football wasn't going right for me. I kind of had a little bit of an attitude. I thought I was better than I was. I couldn't take criticism.
And go back to the 150 pounds thing.
Yeah, 150 pounds thing. I was a maniac. It didn't matter how big you were. I was giving you everything I had because I had to, or else I get killed. And it just wasn't working out for me, right? And school I just didn't get it. I got bored really quickly. It was my 5th year, and my grand idea was oh, I'm never going to get in the JMU, but Blue Ridge Community College, that's pretty fun. I can go there and drink and party. And that was my big goal. I was going to do that and figure out a job where I didn't have to work that hard. That was my big
community college.
Yeah, that was my big goal, is to go to community college. I thought it'd be easier and I could drink. And that was my big thing. So I remember it was 2005, right? And I saw the death toll coming out from Iraq at that time. Nobody was talking about Afghanistan. It was all Iraq. And I was man, I should do something about this. So I called up the recruiter, said, hey, I want to do this. I want to do Airborne Infantry Ranger. He was you sure? And I was yeah. He's all these different jobs. I was Airborne Infantry Ranger. So he was all right. So I went in there, told my mom I was going. So I didn't have class on Friday because I only had 3 classes my senior year. I didn't want to go to summer school. So I told her, hey, I'm going to go hang out at my buddy Pat's house, who was at Blue Ridge. So I was it's called Thirsty Thursday. So I was going to go spend the night there. I actually went to MEPS, took the test. And luckily when I took the test, when I actually graded, I could only be a cook in infantry anyway. So I was cool.
Yeah, cool.
It narrowed down my options. I did that, and it's called the DEP program. I can't remember what DEP stands for.
Delayed Entry Program.
Delayed Entry, thank you. The Delayed Entry Program. So I took the test December in 2005, and then you swear in and an honorary promise hey, this is null and void if you don't graduate high school. So I had probably the first person a negative GPA, I'm pretty sure. And I was going through and just failing, and I didn't care. But as soon as I got that, it gave me something to work towards. I don't want to this is something I care about. And I always prided myself of doing things a little bit different and like more dangerous. Like nobody was joining the Army, like when in 2005 where I was from.
Yeah. No, anywhere.
Nowhere. No, they were giving out.
Like they were having to entice people with bonuses.
Yeah.
And,
they were giving the 88 Mikes, which is a truck driver for anyone that doesn't know, they were giving him $80,000 as a sign-on bonus. Yeah. Because like because
now you go to deploy, and bullseyes, they're driving bullseyes going to get
basically,
hit.
IEDs was the mass casualty producing weapon at that time. So did that, and then I aced everything from that point out. Graduated at the skin of my teeth, 2.005. I went across the stage, like scholar. And I went across the stage, and Mr. Huckstein, shout out Mr. Huckstein, he always looked after me. Like always looked after me. He ended up being like my guidance counselor, then he became the principal. Like everyone else was like, degree, handshake, degree, handshake. He sat there and like prison gripped my hand and was like, I never thought this day would come. I'm so proud of you, Mark. And I'm just like, thanks. And everyone's like, what did he say to you? It was like 20 seconds during this graduation of 800 kids and you're holding up the show. And I went through, it was June. I just turned 19. Had about 2 months and I shipped off to base training Fort Benning, Georgia.
That's what I was going to, did you ship off like in August or something?
August 3rd.
So you did the same thing. I signed the delayed entry program in January, graduated in June, but I didn't ship till August so I could have my summer of fun.
Yeah, I had the summer of fun. But like the type of person I am, once I'm committed, even though I was like partying and drinking, I'd wake up and I'd run 3 or 4 miles. Like I'm not the type of person where I can wake up and like just try something new and be good at it. I have to feel prepared. So I was lifting a lot at that time. I'm like, that's not going to help me. So I just did push-ups and sit-ups, did push-ups and sit-ups. So like when I went to basic, like it wasn't a shock as to some of these other kids. But like I did that all summer leading up to it.
Did you grow up in a fairly disciplined household with your dad being military?
I mean, he left like when I was pretty young. He left when I was in 2nd grade. But I would say he's disciplined, but like it wasn't like consistent because he was gone. And my mom wasn't that disciplined. So like, I think I could have probably used a lot more discipline. Not
the old drill sergeant helped you out with that. Huh?
Yeah, the drill sergeant helped me out with that. And I think it was the fear of failing. And we'll get into it. Really what changed me, because I was even a pretty wild private. You know what I mean? Like I was that one where the platoon sergeant's like, hey, this weekend.
Don't get arrested.
Yeah, don't get arrested. You know what I mean? There's more stories even before we deploy. That's pretty crazy before my 21st birthday. But because I could like in a like we'll get into it, but in a mechanized unit, like I didn't have to really try that much to be really good at PT compared to the other ones. So like I kind of skated a little bit at the beginning.
For those that didn't know, these people ride around in tanks and armored fighting vehicles. They don't move by foot.
Nope.
Too much. So
no, not too much. It wasn't the 82nd.
No offense to those mechanized folks out there, but they're not known for their fitness.
Nope, not at all. And it was pretty easy for me to be top.
You were there, so you went to Fort Hood?
It's pretty funny how I ended up at Fort Hood. So like, so I went to, it's called OSIC.
One station unit training.
So we had 14 weeks. Like most people go like 8 weeks of basic, then they go to like Relax in Jackson or something like that and do something else. Whereas me, I stayed with like one demon drill sergeant the whole time, Drill Sergeant Russell. Like
I was going to say, I bet you know his name.
Drill Sergeant Russell.
Everyone does.
Yeah, Drill Sergeant Russell. Drill Sergeant Lacey was like the cool one. But Drill Sergeant Russell, he would do something where he'd be like, what's the 5th principal patrol? Or I'd say something confidently. He's like, you sure about that? I was like, roger that, Drill Sergeant. He's like, you put your sleep on it? Roger that, Drill Sergeant. Well, you just put your squad sleep on it. You're wrong. Squad fire guard. So he would do the squad fire guard thing. So every night, like people have to watch like the bay. And like if you did squad fire guard, instead of rotating through 60 people, it's rotating through like 9. So you get no sleep on already when you're getting like no sleep. He did that all the time.
And there's never any fire to guard.
No, there's no fire.
Record. It's left over from a long time ago.
Yeah, there's no fire. It's just miserable. But yeah, so I went there. Actually, one time I did fire guard in nothing but jeans and Jordans. So I don't know. Like this is pretty bad. Again, bad things happen to me all the time.
So you're potentially the guy that we see out there, like cutting the grass with scissors.
Oh,
like
100%.
You got that kind of
100%. Like I didn't try to be that. Like I really tried to take it serious, but I just feel like a cartoon, a cloud that always follows me with rain. You know, you had the A and B bag, drop it and do the layout, and they give you like 30 seconds to put it back, and no one makes the time hack. So like we get out there, it's the shark attack. All the drill sergeants are shark attacking us, and we're dumping the bags, and your civilian clothes are in there, right? and your civilian clothes are supposed to get locked up in the back and you never see them again. Well, mine got mixed up when we're doing all this bag stuff. So we get back in the bay and we're like we didn't get a shower for a week. You know, we're like sweating brown in the middle of August in Georgia. And I noticed my clothes are there and I'm like, there's no way I'm telling this dude that my clothes are here. So I just hid my Jordans in my pair of jeans because I didn't have my shirt. My shirt made it. Just my Jordans and my jeans went down there and I'm like, whatever. Well, one day I didn't have my locker locked and the hurricane came through. Hurricanes, they toss everything. So there was a bunch of us that had like, one guy just had a trench coat. One dude had like a Marvin the Martian t-shirt. And so there was like 8 of us that did this. And the drill sergeant thought it was a good idea. Like, y'all are going to do a week-long squad fire guard and that's your uniform. So they made one dude wear a helmet with his Marvin the Martian t-shirt. I just had dog tags, jeans, and like Jordans. And then they did mail call. So like, you know, like towards the phases, like the drill sergeants get to go home and then just one drill sergeant for the whole like starship. They did mail call and this drill sergeant didn't know anything about it because he was 4th platoons. So we go down for mail call and we're all coming down there looking like the village people. And he's like, what the fuck is this? And he's looking at us and I was like, Drill Sergeant Rosa told me so. And he starts laughing and the whole bay thought I went AWOL. They thought we got caught going AWOL. And like, this is my uniform I go AWOL with, but like, yeah, so like
no shirt.
Yeah, no shirt, just like, you know, anorexic looking. I was probably 145 pounds. And like, so that happened. And then immediately after that, I had 4 days because I graduated basic OSIC or whatever in November. So we had Thanksgiving. And then I had 4 days of Thanksgiving. And then we reported back to the bay and then took the buses to Airborne School.
The Airborne School to do 3 days packed into 3 weeks.
Yeah, 3 days.
Learn how to jump out of an airplane.
Yeah, I wasn't that good at it. Again, I wasn't an athlete. I kept having, you know, you had to do Airborne School. You know the thing where you, and then it's like, you know,
the PLF trainer.
The PLF training, man.
Parachute landing fall. How to fall down without hurting yourself.
You know, like the 5 points of contact is really just feet, ass, head.
Yeah.
And they don't care about me go to 82nd, but they're really big on it in the schoolhouse. Oh, yeah. Man, this guy made me do it like 20. I thought I was going to be the first person ever to fail Airborne School.
Get up on your counter at home and just jump down on the floor.
Yeah.
And just do it again and do that all day. That's like days at Airborne School.
Yeah, it was terrible. And it was really boring, but it was better. I think it was better for me coming from like basic to there because you got more freedom. Yeah. There's like a Subway. You're like, oh, I can eat Subway right across the street. And then you got the weekends off sometimes, which is really bad. You know, you got a bunch of freaking crazy privates on the weekends and Victory Drive. But
young 18, 19-year-olds who think they're made of steel.
Oh, yeah, it's bad. And then everyone else there has already been deployed.
Rolling around in their Marvin the Martian t-shirts.
Yeah, Marvin the Martian t-shirts. And you get a little bit of money. You have like $2,000 in the bank afterwards. You're like, man, I'm balling.
So you do your 5 jumps, become airborne qualified, and then you go to a mech unit?
No, that's not why. I'm convinced it's because I fucked up one of those jumps. Basically, before our drill sergeant was cool. And I'm trying to remember this drill sergeant's name. He had glasses. He was cool. He was a 173rd guy, but I love that. He actually liked me. He was the one drill sergeant that liked me. The rest of them hated me.
I think it's funny, the ones that hated you remember their names.
Yeah, of course, because you don't remember good things. You remember the things you like keep you up at night. Our basic was different. They actually divided each of the 4 platoons into your contract. 4th platoon had Ranger contracts. I didn't get a Ranger contract. I got just Airborne. So 3rd platoon was all Airborne. 2nd platoon was the Nasty Girls, which is the National Guard. And then 1st platoon was regular Army. So we all were different. It was like they were trying something. So like he actually read our orders and I had 82nd at the beginning. So it was like 82nd and 101st. It was like split down the middle. Either you went to 82nd or 101st.
Like,
yeah. So I was like, this is what I enlisted for. I'm good. So my 5th jump, like the Airborne people would always like have the little megaphone as soon as you get home. They'd be like, all right, Airborne, you know, whatever you do, slip right. Or slip right, Airborne, slip left.
For the folks out there, they're on the ground. Mark's in the air, floating in a parachute down to the ground as they yell at him with a megaphone.
Yeah, megaphone. And you get accustomed to them telling you what to do. And so, especially coming from basic, like you can't do anything. So my last jump, you know, before I graduate, the drill sergeant, I'm coming down. The drill sergeant's like, all right, Airborne, whatever you do, don't slip left. I hear slip left. So I slip left and I hear, oh, fuck, that's the truck. And I'm like, what? So I look down and there's a quad cab, brand new Ford F-150, like a POV, personal operating vehicle, whatever they call it, on the drop zone. And I'm like, I'm trying to avoid it. So I quickly do this and I hit right before, probably the only perfect PLF I ever did. And I hit it and I PLF and I shoulder checked that motherfucker right in the panel, put a dent in it like this. It was the battalion commander's POV. He came out there to watch. So I just took out the battalion commander's brand new, still had the dealer temp tags on it. And I took it out and my chutes covered it. And I'm just standing there and all the, the black hats.
Which you got some attention now.
Oh, they were all over there, taking it off. He comes over. He's like, you got anything to say? Yeah, I think I'm like fucktard or something. And I was like, Airborne, sir. And he's like, ah! That's all I can think about. And so like the guys come over like, are you going to release your canopy release symbols, do that? Because I didn't have to. I wasn't going to get dragged because it's over the truck. Yeah, so I had to go through and I had to lay down. I'm like, man, I don't know what's going to happen. So I did that and I'm packing up my chute. And all the black hats are like freaking out and taking this off. And then this one black hat comes over to me, Sergeant Airborne. He says, that was awesome, man. You're kamikaze from here on out. So my nickname for the last like 5 days was kamikaze. And when they read everyone's orders, so we're going back and I'm convinced, we're going in line, 173rd, you're going to, Vincenza, 82nd. I'm just waiting. I'm like, I already know I'm going to 82nd. And the drill sergeant or the Sergeant Airborne goes, Fort Hood. And he hands it to me like this. And I was like, what's Fort Hood? He was like, 4ID. And I'm like, what's 4ID? I was kind of like that. What's 4ID? And I was like, what is this? What's Texas? And I'm convinced I got that because I'm convinced that I did. I was the only person. I was the only person that got it. And my original orders were that. So somehow it got changed.
Somehow.
Yeah, somehow it got changed. So yeah, I ended up going mechanized. But I regret because my dad pinned on my wings. My grandfather pinned on my wings. So I was one of the only people that got blood wings there. Nice. You weren't allowed to do blood wings anymore. And my dad wasn't having that.
Care,
he didn't care. And they didn't care. So
that means put the pin on the chest. There's no backing and people punching into you in it.
Yeah, same thing with your CIBs or anything you get like pinned, your rank.
Different awards,
Yeah, the awards, you get the blood stuff, old school stuff.
Again, things that don't transition in the civilian
it doesn't.
world.
No. They're not like, hey, congrats, best sales of the quarter. We're going to stick this pin through your chest.
Yeah, but it's like a rite of passage. Everyone's like, look, give me blood wings. And my dad actually told me, he's like, hey, like, let's just go talk to the Ranger recruiter. And that's what I wanted. But at that time, I think I was kind of worn down and I was just like, I was so naive that I was like, I just wanted to go to war. And I was thinking, 4ID is going to get the same mission. Everyone's going to have these cool missions. Everyone's going doing the same thing. I was too naive. I wish my dad would have told me something different because it was Christmas Exodus. So I got to go home for 2 weeks. I hadn't seen anything. I just want to go home with my friends. But I kind of regret that to this day, not like just going and trying it, right? I was in shape. Like, why not?
So you deployed to Iraq?
Yeah, in like Nasiriyah. Yeah, Nasiriyah.
In what, 2008?
2008. Yeah.
How was that deployment?
We were starting to transition like the last 8 months to like where the Iraqis were like first ones in. But it was a lot of driving around doing like presence patrols, a lot different than my Afghanistan deployment. Not much was going on, a lot of mortars. A couple things happened, but it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. I thought I was going to be like kicking indoors all the time and all this stuff. It wasn't what I signed up for. It's actually why I re-enlisted there. I got pinned sergeant. And I re-enlisted there because I'm like, I'm not doing this again with this unit. It wasn't against the unit. I actually had some really good leaders in the unit. I just didn't want to go back to Iraq because I felt like the war was dying down.
I love this. I'm going to re-enlist so I don't do this again.
Yes. I'm
getting out so I don't do this again.
Because we already had orders to go back to Iraq before we even left.
Because it was, during that time, it was just.
And I was like, there's no way I'm going to sit here for 12 months. Like, at one point, our company commander thought it was a good idea to go to an Iraqi police compound and like dig it out. And I have pictures of this. It was like a mortared, bombed, and we'd be there for like a month. And we dug it out and we're doing this. I have pictures of it. And like what we didn't realize when you dig up some undisturbed earth there, it releases something called sand fleas. So all of us that slept in there, we welted up and they ended up having to ship us back, penicillin shot, and we all got sand fleas. And I'm like, why? Like, why are we here? There's some of the dumb things we did there, but I got in really good shape. I got in really good shape there. We were getting out doing infantry stuff. It just wasn't as kinetic of an area that I wanted to do. Right?
Come back, go to Bragg to the famed 82nd Airborne Division. What was that like?
I mean, it was great. I mean, I think it's a little intimidating going from like, because Fort Bragg has such a prestige about it, me being a cocky private. And I was like, I didn't know at this point I was ever going to go to Bragg. We relieved the 82nd, 1st Brigade at Iraq. And I was talking to our interpreters, the interpreters, they go there and I was like, hey man, you worked at the 82nd. He's like, yeah. Because we had to guard them. I was like, they're not that good, right? they're not that good. Because I wanted to feel like, you know, I'm still something. He's like, no, my friend. They're much better. And I was like, man, shit, man, that didn't go the way I thought it was going to go. So I was like, man, I guess I should go re-enlist for that. So because at that point, I didn't know I was going to re-enlist. At Hood, I didn't have to like, I could try a little bit, but I didn't have to like dedicate myself to be top guy, right? I was the top guy. I had to try, and like, you know, my wife Joanna can attest to this. Like on the weekends, like I wasn't like taking a day off.
Yeah,
like
you were
I was running.
PT and
because some of these guys they come out the womb and they're like Kenyans. They're just running like a freaking like 2-minute mile. Like I couldn't believe it, and I was like, man, I really got to try. And I was a sergeant at the time, and then I got there. I was thinking I wasn't gonna like be this guy, but I got there and I just worked hard. Did the hard things, and I was a E5 squad leader. I beat out a bunch of other E5s, and then when I got that, I realized I have to keep that. I can't have my guys running and me not be at the tip of the spear. So I was like very serious about that. Of like, I always was known for PT. I studied a lot. Like the 82nd pushed me to another level of that fear of failure. Of like, these guys are different.
Pursuing excellence and putting that work in.
Yeah, these guys are different. They're in shape. There's like a cocky pride about them, like we're the best, and they're like bloodthirsty. You know what I mean? So I think I fit in way more with that group. I didn't feel like I fit in, even though I have some of my best friends from Hood. I definitely fit in the 82nd a lot more.
So you deployed to Afghanistan from there?
Yeah, Ghazni province, Afghanistan. So we actually, when I got there, again, my shitty luck, I didn't know what the GRF was, which used to be the DRF, the Division Ready Force. So we got there, and again, here come the orders like, 3rd Brigade, good luck, you're on GRF. And I was like, what's GRF? You know, again, what's GRF? And basically, everyone else gets deployed, but you're the America in case shit happens.
Yeah, here's a big 911 call.
Big 911 call. And all you do is you train more than everybody else. You always have a bag packed, and then they like to play games of like, hey, we're going to call you in the middle of the night, and we're going to have a random training mission on a Saturday. I did that for 2 years. So again, I'm chasing this deployment, and again, my wife can tell you how many times I was just like, I don't care where I go. I just got to get a deployment. Like
you're like, this is the one, and they're like, no,
this isn't the one. So it's just like, you know, too far out of reach. And then love Colonel Evans. I think he's a 3-star now. Was my guy. Like, love him to death. He took over Ranger Regiment. Then he was like JSOC. So when Baghdadi got taken out with Trump, he was one of the guys sitting next to Trump. This guy, for whatever reason, loved me. Like I was his decisive operation dude. Like I was his first squad that he graded. So I think I had that kind of thing with him. I don't know what it was. He knew Joanna, my wife. We trained our asses off. So he was like, and he was giving us a motivation speech to the whole battalion. And I think he realized the morale was low. Like, man, fuck, why are we training this much? And he's like, hey, boys or men or whatever he said, it's going to be a bloody summer. And he's like, and we're the best out here. If anyone's going to get the call, it's going to be you. And I promise. Next week, 1P gets the call. We don't. We're 2P. I'm like, what the? And basically what happened was he came down on Ranger Regiment orders. And from what I hear, and I don't know how much truth there is, like he got a choice. And like, of course, he's going to take over like a battalion of Ranger Regiment over that. Versus, so like 1P got the call. And I'm like, golly, we've been kicking 1P's ass this whole time. Like, what the hell? So like, I think like 8 months later, the Army was trying this new thing of like, there was like data out there. The first 90 days a unit comes in the last 90 days. So when you...
The most dangerous.
Yeah, retrograde and all this stuff. That's when they take the most casualties. So they sent us on a quick action with the OD-11 and the guys out of Okinawa. And basically, I think it's OD-11. Are they out of Okinawa?
Yes. When was this?
This was 2011. Okay. 2012. Yeah. 2011, 2012.
We ripped their sister team out.
Yeah. So there were some at a place called Fob Lightning, and then there were some at Sharana. We stayed at Fob Sharana in Paktika province, right? And so we basically got the call, and we were out the door in 2 weeks. And basically what the mission was 1st Brigade, 82nd, took like 100 casualties in like 6 months. And we were going to go to Ghazni, which I never heard of Ghazni. I thought it was going to be another week deployment. We were just going to go to like Taliban hotbeds and just like, you know, mess their world up. And it was like direct action. I was like, ooh, this is really what I want to do, right? So it was like, we weren't doing present patrols. We weren't doing anything like that. We were just like going after the enemy. So it was a really cool deployment.
It's such a different perspective from a spousal side of it, because you're relieved when your spouse is not getting deployed.
Yeah.
And you're like, yes, I get to keep them here. This is great.
Yeah.
So that deployment, it was pretty kinetic. By kinetic meaning a lot of what people think of combat.
Yeah. I mean, our first 7 days, so we weren't with the SF guys yet. So our first 7 days, we did a leader recon and Cop McCore. in the 2 days before we got there, they gave us like a sit rep report, and they just got 14 rockets. And Corps is not big; it's a combat outpost, and they had like
a little small.
Yeah,
like,
they got destroyed.
Not much more than like a small property.
Yeah, so I got picked for the leaders recon. Me and my buddy Hope, who looks like Ray Lewis, he's like one of my best friends to this day, funniest guy ever, and his wife's good friends with my wife. Like me and Hope were brothers. So we go on like this leaders recon. There's like 5 of us, and we go on actually like a contractor helicopter, like a little like white like civilian one.
Yeah.
And we're going, and we're like, all right, what we're getting into. As soon as we get there, these motherfuckers threw our bags off before we could even get our seatbelt off. They're just like, oh, get off, and like boot us out. And then before I even like could be like, oh, where am I at? They're gone. I'm like, oh, this must be a bad area. You know what I mean? And like, I see the porta potties, they're shredded. You know, the gym got messed up, and you can hear like every like 30 minutes, it was like troops in contact. You could hear, you know, the 240s going off. And I was like, oh, okay.
You hear a gunfight going off.
Yeah, you could hear ticks, troops in contact, you know, a little gunfight going on. We did a little leaders recon with them. Nothing really happened. And then the rest of the company came. And that's when what's reflected that you've seen happen that, you know, quickly after that, 24 hours after that.
And you guys, pretty rough deployment, right?
All the cool combat stories you hear is only probably 10% of someone's deployment. I think for us, just doing direct action missions that took like 4 days to plan and go, like we probably saw a lot compared to people that were just doing patrols every day. Yeah. But like to have what happened to Omar and Bashard from a platoon where the majority of them were on GRF, never been deployed before, to lose your 2 senior leaders, like within like, you know, stepping on boots on the ground in Afghanistan was pretty bad. Like our platoon got decimated that day. And what's even like worse, the FRG, because you know you're not supposed to like, it's supposed to be blackout.
Yeah, the family readiness
group. She was staying with her brother, and the family readiness group sent out an email and said, hey, some people got really hurt. It's in this platoon, but we can't tell you who. So that's what she gets.
Does not help.
Yeah, and she knows what platoon I'm in. So that's what she gets, and she doesn't have any comms with me because it's like commo blackout. Yeah. I would say that like having that the first like 7 days, like, you know, in country was pretty rough. Losing
they got
your
messed up pretty bad, right?
Basically, we were with 1st Platoon, a squad of 1st Brigade. Sergeant Marlowe, my guy. Like I still talk to this guy to this day. Warrior, not a back in the rear soldier. Each platoon went out. We were just staying in like this half moon berm, and 1st platoon went out with a squad of like 1st Brigade, 2nd platoon went out. We were 3rd platoon is what you call 3rd platoon. Each platoon went out and got in separate areas of the area of operations. All of them got in a firefight. So I was like, man, watch us not be the ones that get in a firefight. And when 2nd platoon went out, this is actually a funny story. They got shot at as soon as they walked out, like just kind of like see what you're going to do. And like, I remember watching everyone because it was like we were just in a dirt berm, which is like cookie crust. And like a lot of people didn't, you know, it's the first time they've seen it. So people were freaking out, trying to get their gear on. Like Otto, who was kind of like the out of shape, fat body soldier, he's like trying to like run up with his saw, and he just like falls. And I just remember this slow, like down the thing. And then I remember Hernandez, like, it was kind of cool, right? A little adrenaline rush. And it was like, all right, at least something happened. And I remember Hernandez, he was shaving. So he didn't have his kit on. And he's out there with like no shirt, with nothing, at the top, fully exposed, looking at his ACOS. He said, where are these motherfuckers at, cuz? And I'm just like, man, I'm glad this dude's my platoon sergeant, man. He should be in like a box that says like break in case of war. Break in case of war. So we're the last platoon that goes out, and we go with Sergeant Marlowe and them. Basically, we're doing this like recon of this village, about a click out, which is like a mile. Nothing's happening because we have air assets on station. So we had like the Apache or whatever. So they're never gonna attack you. They're not dumb. They're not dumb. They know they're not gonna do that. Troops get in contact somewhere else. Apache goes off station. Marlowe comes up to me and Hernandez, because I was talking to Hernandez. The last 5 times we've gone down this road, we've 3 times we've been shot at. You guys want to see what's up? I'm like, hell yeah, let's go.
For those out there, it probably seems like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
But no, that's the mindset in over experience. And this is like, oh, they've got shot. Yeah, let's go down there.
Yeah, and that's our mission. It was movement to contact, right?
Because go pick a fight with the enemy.
Yeah, go pick a fight with the enemy, because like the ROE is like, unless you're probably Delta Force or somewhere else cool, we have to make sure they're a threat. So they have to like shoot at us. That's our ROE. We're not trying to go to
rules of engagement says basically you can't fire upon until fired upon.
Exactly. So you're literally like, hey, shoot at me. So we go down there and we do bounding Overwatch. For everyone that doesn't know bounding Overwatch, we send a gun team up there to provide cover for everyone else to move. So Brashard's squad went up there. And granted, I had just tore up my ankle right before we went on this deployment. So I'm like maybe like 4 months removed from surgery and like maybe a month into doing PT. I wasn't even supposed to deploy, but because it was such a fast deployment, I wasn't letting my guys go. And we're 7,000 feet above elevation. So I'm sucking. And so they go up there immediately, like we start moving out down this road, they get shot at. So you're, you know, and I'm like, oh, so I start running and I'm like, you know, if you think like, you know, a hero, I think in my head, I think we're doing that. And like 50 meters go, I'm like, like sucking. So we get there. It's maybe like 100-meter sprint. Maybe I did 60 of it because I started sucking and like, it's done. The fight's done. And so I set up my guys at rear security. Bashard's squad's like this on this little like cement thing that's like, you know, as high as this chair, and they're laying on it. They were shot in this direction. So I set up my guys in a security right here, do that thing. And we did like the security overwatch. There's some guys on the road with Hope and Nelson and them. And actually Redding, our first sergeant, came with us because we were third platoon. And I think he didn't think we were that good. We're getting the ACE report, which is ammo, casualties, and equipment. There's a elongated one for that, but the ACE report is what we call. So you basically go around your guys and you check them like, hey, you got water? Are you shot? Are you good? Cool. And so I go around, tell my team leaders to get it, because I was the first squad leader at this time. I was the lead navigation squad leader. So I go and get it, and I call it up. Hey, 3-1. My call sign was 3-1. G to G, which is green to green. Good to go. Cool. All right. 3-1, move up. As soon as I stand up, it's like, I mean, a barrage happened. So basically what they were doing is they were seeing our posture, and they set up an ambush on us really bad. And they just started getting tore up. So like the road got it really bad. They got it. A guy got shot in the femur there, and then Burchard and them were just getting torched. So I grabbed, I remember this, Alisani. He came over. I was like, give me a saw. And Alisani comes over. He was my worst saw. I was like, not you. Give me someone that's good.
For those, it's not a saw. It's a light
Squad
machine gun.
automatic weapon.
So it's a small machine gun, not like a saw in a gunfight.
I still remember him kind of like, looked like Captain Phillips running over there, Alisani. And like he came over. I was like, no, give me someone else. So like I took my other saw gunner, which was a good saw gunner. And then I took Matarko, who was like the 203 gunner. So I took both of them.
So shooting grenades up.
Yeah, like if anybody's ever seen Predator, Arnold, he has that little thing on the bottom of it. So I took both of them, and then Saw started going down, and the gun team was doing great. They were talking the guns. They were getting after it. You know, for guys that had never seen combat, and like they were getting pelted.
Training kicked in.
The training kicked in. So 2 years of training, these guys were like bloodthirsty, like vampires. So like they were getting after it, and I was very proud of them. And so I remember I tell Matarko, and I identify this building. I don't know if it's the guys from there. It's like, oh, it looks like a building. They're probably shooting at us from there. Because in Afghanistan, you never really know. Yeah, you can't see them. And so you're just trying to identify. I just told him, I said, HEDP that fucking building. I want it gone. And Matarko was like, dude, so fast. Looked like Val Kilmer from Heat. Like the way he was changing in those grenades. I was like, cool, he's good. So it's me and then maybe to this chair. Burchard's right there. We're both on a knee, and I start just like laying into my mags. I'm like, it's cool. Burchard's got the gun teams. I'm just here helping. And then all of a sudden, because where we were at the cement thing, like we were getting so many bullets, you could feel if a round hit in front of you, you were getting like fragments of cement spraying you in the face. So like it was you can't really see the bullets, but you get an idea of like how
they're close, and they sound different.
They sound different.
There's a difference, a bullet 5 feet away and a bullet 5 inches away. Yeah, but if you got different sound.
If you got two 240s in your ears,
then you're not hearing.
You don't hear anything, right? Yeah. And so like I'm just like, you can see fragments of this, and it's spraying you in the face. And then all of a sudden, Burchard just like, he had his weapon on a sling, and he just dropped, and he just goes to both knees, and he just starts like this. Like kind of like doing the wiggle. So I look over, and I'm like, I just yell Burchard's hit, right? And I just take over the gun team. Because like my job's not the evac, and that's a platoon sergeant's job. Yeah. So I just took over the gun teams, and I just started, coordinating the gun teams and making sure my guys were focused and good, which were Burchard's guys. And then I could see out of the corner of my eye, I just see Hernandez like a superhero. He jumps over this berm, grabs him. Hernandez is not a big guy, 5'7", grabs Burchard and lifts him up over this dirt berm like that. And I saw it out the corner of my eye, and I'm like, oh, he's good. He's good. He's good. And then we're getting after it. We're still in this firefight, and we're still getting after it. I can hear my name. And mind you, there's 2 machine guns in my ear, and I can hear my name being screamed at the top of their lungs. like, Sergeant Kershaw. It was Doc Shep, our medic. So I'm like, what the fuck, man? So I go back there and I'm like, what, is he dead? Is Brashard dead? I got to get back to the fight. And he's like, they're down the hole. And I'm like, what? He's like, they're down the fucking hole. And I'm like, what are you talking about? So I look at my feet and there's like, think of like a sewer, but square. And I look down and all I see is like 30 feet of light, then it goes 30 feet of light, then it goes pitch black. And I'm like, oh.
And they had fallen
all the way down in full combat gear, everything. And I'm like,
Hernandez, right, had fallen.
Hernandez and Brashard.
And Brashard had fallen.
Fallen down. And so they're basically falling down on top of each other because there's not enough room where like they're there. So like whoever hit first, I think Brashard hit first, or Hernandez might have hit first because his legs snapped. Both his legs snapped from his toes all the way up to his knees. And then Brashard got shot in either in the head or the plate, but it didn't go through. That's what concussed him. So I assume it's probably the head. And then when he went down there, his side plate broke his ribs to where his bone like punctured his lung. So he was like gargling on his own like blood basically. So that happens. We're still in the fight, and I'm like,
they're in the middle of a gunfight, and 2 dudes are down.
Yeah, 2 dudes are down,
well,
which you never prepare for.
Yeah.
Like out of everything we prepared for, this wasn't one of them. And so I lay down in the prone, and I'm just like, I guess I'll wait this firefight out so I can figure out what's going on. Firefight stops, and Hernandez is conscious, but he's in pain. Brashard's not. So Hernandez is trying to keep him alive. We're trying to figure it out. So I start calling up the 9-line medevac for that, right? And we call it up. Or like I tried to key my mic, like call it up. And I was like, why is my mic not keying? And I had my emitter on the side, which is the radio.
Yeah, radio. Yeah.
And I pull it and just the cord. So like, I guess either I broke it or a round was that close, came through my emitter. So that's not working. So I'm like, I can't even call up a 9-line at this point. So I'm just trying to keep them conscious. Someone called up a 9-line for the guy that shot in the femur on the side, which was our first sergeant, because he didn't know what was going on here because we're separated. And he comes over and I tell him, because Brashard and Hernandez were some of his best friends like me. And he's like, oh my God, so we're trying to figure out how to get this out.
Get him out.
We're like, we need to get some light down there. So we threw some chem lights down there. And like R3, we called him R3, he's our third Rodriguez. So he's R3 in the platoon. He cracked the chem light. He throws it down there and just like Hernandez, he throws it down there. I guess it hit his bone that was exposed. And he goes, ah, he's like, who threw that? And he's like, me, Sergeant. R3, he's like, R3, punch yourself in the dick. And so like, and like, it's funny in the moments of like really crazy stuff, you just start laughing.
Yeah. Dude's got bone stickers in his leg, bottom of a hole.
I mean, I think you saw the pictures of it in tribal. Like, I mean, it was shattered, you know? And so basically what happened was the 9-line medevac comes. They didn't have any special equipment because they didn't know about this. So they go pick up the dude with the femur, you know, or shot in the femur or whatever. Had to go back. So we're out there for like 3 hours wondering when we're going to get hit next. I call up the 1st Brigade and I'm like, hey, you guys have MRAPs. Maybe we can use the winch to get these guys out. They wouldn't send anybody.
They wouldn't send the vehicles.
They wouldn't send anybody.
Wow.
I don't know what happened in the back. From what I heard, and it's funny because we had all these different platoon sergeants, but we had one platoon sergeant, no jump master. He was a drill sergeant, no ranger. And in the 82nd, everyone has jump master or ranger. He was the guy that said, once he heard what was happening to us, he said, first platoon, get shit on. Let's go. Company commander says, no, I'm in charge here, because our company commander, because remember, this was just kind of like a leader's recon. Our company commander was riding around with SF, so he wasn't there. So this company commander outranked everybody. He basically told him, no, you're not going. And Sergeant Roach, shout out Sergeant Roach and Lieutenant Rich, they said, well, I'm not going to have my guys get in trouble, but we're going. So if you don't want something to happen to us because we don't know where we're going, send some fucking people with us. So I'm sitting there and we got them all. Basically, how we had to get them out there was the dudes left, took the guy to the hospital or whatever. They come back, and the guy that was the loadie or whatever in the chopper, the Air Force guy or the Army guy or whatever, he was like a mountaineering dude. So he rigged up. We all got like this rig and stuff like that. And it was just like 1, 2, 3, huh. 1, 2, 3, huh. Wow. Each one of them pulled them up. And you want to talk about some like shitty sounds, you know, of people in pain.
Yeah, because you got broken bones on both casualties. Pulled out of a hole.
Yeah, Brashard was the worst. I didn't think Brashard was going to make it, but he did. Brashard was really bad. I had to do the movement back. But as I'm sitting there, you know, I'm calling up like who's hurt, like with their brevity codes or whatever, you know, their last 4 and their first and last initial. I just see like out of the smoke, I swear it's like a movie, out of the smoke comes like Lieutenant Rich and Roach with a squad of the 1st Brigade guys. And even though we were fine, we had 30 dudes. It was just nice to know like, oh man, someone's out there, right? I knew we were fine, but when you get like...
Someone cares.
Someone cares, and I don't care how badass you think you are. When you get smacked in the mouth like that, you start doubting how badass you are.
Yeah.
You won't say it, and as a leader, I couldn't say that because what happened in that moment, I went from being squad leader to platoon sergeant because it went Hernandez, Brashard, then me. So like I had to like hold it down, but these are my 2 best friends, you know what I mean? So I had to hold it down, but like I was...
So basically what that means for those that may not know is that you then assumed the higher position because they were incapable of doing those duties now.
Yeah, exactly. So like in numbers, like think about management, I went and being in charge of 8 to being in charge of 35 to 40 within like 15 minutes.
And how old were you?
23, 24. Yeah, 23, 24. I was a young staff sergeant. I got promoted like 6 and 5. So like I was a young staff sergeant.
So like 6 years in the Army you were promoted?
Like 5 years, 4.5 years. I think I couldn't get points because the points were so high. I was like I was sergeant promotable, so I was a squad leader for a long time until I made points. I had to get like an extra. I think jump master is what put me over to get the points, and then I made 6 and 5 years, E6 in 5 years. And
so you finished that deployment. They survive. You guys stay there months longer. You get out of the Army pretty soon after that, right? What leads to that, like, departure from the Army?
My ankle led me to that. So, like, my ankle was just crushed. I have no cartilage in it, and, like, I couldn't run anymore. I probably could have stayed in the Army and done an office job, but, like, especially rucking, which as a light infantryman, like, rucking's a big thing. Anytime I do ruck running, so I'm not a tall dude, so I don't have the stride that everyone else does. I have to do, like, I could ruck run for days.
We're laughing because when we run together, I always say you're one stride. I have to take 4 for your 1.
Yeah, you'll have these dudes that are like go gadget leg, and like I hate them, and like I have to like run, so I got to be in better shape than them.
I look like Fred Flintstone, like
that's how a lot of guys have to ruck, and then you learn techniques of leaning forward, leaning backwards, and
because you got like 75 pound, whatever pound ruck in your back,
whatever pound ruck, and my ankle I was in so much pain all the time. So I finally went and got it checked out by the brigade surgeon. He was like, you messed it up going on that deployment. And what we can do is we can take cartilage from your non-weight bearing part of your good knee and try to put that in there. I was like, no, get effed. No, you're not doing that. And he's like, well, your other option is, you med board, or we can reclass you, get you another job that's not infantry. You can't do this anymore. And I was like, man, I'll get out. I felt like at that point, and I regret this to this day, of a lot of decisions. I live with a lot of regret. I got out because I felt like I did what I wanted to do. I did my deployment. I felt like the war was dying down. I got my CIB, all this stuff, and I felt like I was like, cool, I checked that box. I'm a warrior. We can go, which I still regret. But at that time, a young 24, 25-year-old guy, like that's the decision I made. So I was out the door in 6 months. Like it was a fast med board. Yeah, fast med board. They were med boarding people like this. And mine was cut and dry because I had the surgery documented. I had the deployments documented. So it was like very cut and dry.
Hey, for more stories like this, hit subscribe and we'll have more guests coming up.
Mark, how did you get into software sales?
Ooh, that's a good question. So I got out. I took 30 days leave. And again, fear of failure. I ended up on my 30 days leave. I got a job at Lifetime Fitness, which is like the yuppie gym, right? I was doing my first sales job. I was pretty bad at it, but I just outworked everybody. It's full commission. I've never worked full commission before. And I don't think you realize like how good you're taken care of in the Army until you're not. Like you don't realize like healthcare's a mother, like all this stuff. And like everyone is broke in the Army. So there's no one that's like a hierarchy than you. So like everyone's kind of like, there's no, man, I want that or whatever, unless you're good with money. Getting out, you started seeing like the other side of the fence, like, ooh, man, I'm like bottom, lower class here. You know what I mean? Like, golly. So get out, I'm married. I still want to support. Joanna started picking it up and started working a lot. And so like, I'm like, man, this kind of sucks. I'm no longer Staff Sergeant Kershaw. But so basically I sucked at selling, but I outworked everyone. So I would go in at like 8 a.m., wouldn't leave till like 11 p.m. at night. And that way, like that way I could answer the phones when no one else would, or I'd like unplug their phone so they couldn't get it. I was like shady. Yeah. I would do that all the time. When I actually took the Thanksgiving shift, nobody wanted to do Thanksgiving. So this is the one time we were closing early at like 5. and we shut down the gym and did something called a turkey burn, which is like Taibo. And everyone went in there, and I was watching it because there was nothing to do. Nobody was going to buy a membership there. And a guy named Mike came up, didn't know his name at the beginning. He was asking me, what the hell is this? And I was talking to him. He talked to me about a friend, Jetta. I need to get him in the gym. So I put on like this sales pitch and it was really bad. Dude looked at me like I had something growing out of my forehead. And I was like, oh, there goes another one. And he turns around, and he's wearing a First Cap t-shirt. And I was like, oh shit, brother. And this had nothing to do with sales at this point. I was just like, hey man, we probably, kicked the same dirt somewhere, and we knew some of the same people. He's like, man, you seem like a pretty good, cool dude. What do you do? I was like, oh, I actually work here. He's like, you do? I was like, yeah, I was actually trying to sell your friend a membership, but I don't think it was that good. He's like, no, it wasn't. And I was like, all right, man, that's cool. He's like, what do you like what you do? I was like, I fucking hate it, man. And he was like, oh, perfect. You ever a company called Oracle? And I was like, what's Oracle? He was like, perfect. Send me your resume. We're part of this tight-knit veteran group. We take guys straight from combat and put them in the sales roles, and they're some of the top producing ones. And I looked at him, I was like, I'm not working at Geek Squad, man. You're good, brother. Like, I'm good, man. I'll go back here and start calling car dealerships for fake calls. And that's what I did. So I went back to my office, and you could call it was PNC Bank, because they would manage your talk time. You had to get like 7 to 14 seconds we had to make 150 calls a day. And you had to get 7 to 14 seconds to count. So I realized I could call PNC Bank. I had them all, like 7 PNC banks, like registered in my phone, and the automated system would give me 7 to 14 seconds. So I just sat there and did this the whole time to get my talk time up. And he was actually at the FBI at the time. So he started at Oracle, and he ended up going to the FBI. He threw down his card, and he's like, hey man, I'm serious about it, man. We're about paying it forward. I was like, hey man, cool. And I wasn't going to take the interview. And a guy named Steven Greco comes in who worked for us. And he did something back in the day with Cisco, and something happened where he got like excommunicado out the industry. I don't know what it was, but he was a player at one point. And he was like, what? He asked, what was this about? And I told him the story, and he said, you fucking serious? Like Oracle? I was like, yeah, Geek Squad. And he was like, no. He's like,
no, geek. That's
he's like, dude, if you don't take that interview, I'm gonna kick your ass. And I was like, what? And he was like, you'll be a member here one day. And at that time, I was like, $200 a month. There's no way. I was like, what? He's like, dude, you'll be a member here one day. He's like, take that interview. So I did, and the program was ran by Rear Admiral Bud Langston, who flew fighter jets in Vietnam, big executive at Oracle, and he would take guys like me and another guy named Jetta, Mark Matsky, and all of us in straight from combat, and we were kind of like a self-support group, helping us crazy trigger pull. And he liked trigger pullers too. Like he didn't want like admin guys. He liked the rough guys, because he said we were more like execution focused. And that's how I started. I ended up getting
no pun intended there.
Yeah, no, like, you know what I mean? Like execute a mission.
A lot of people don't realize how much leadership goes into military roles at such an early age. Yeah. So when they're looking at people that come out of the military, they assume a lack of leadership. 100%. But in actuality, you had years of leadership once you got out. So it's so interesting that Oracle was wise enough to identify that and utilize that. And now it's led to where you are today.
Yeah. I mean, I still think it's a challenge to this day. Like, I remember I was at Slack and I was killing it. I was the only government person and I killed it there. And I remember, I won't say this manager's name because I can't stand her.
No shout out for her.
No shout out for her. Like, yeah, I can't stand her. But like, I asked for like how am I doing career things? I was doing all this stuff, and like, it was like 6 months in, and she didn't want to do it, but she felt obligated. And she's like, I feel like you're asking to be a manager. I was like, no, I just want to know, like, where's this leading to? I'm doing all this stuff. It's growing. It's what it's leading to. She's like, you don't have, and she looked me in, it was on Zoom, looked me in the face, said, you don't have leadership experience, Mark. And I was like, what? Like, what are you talking about? And she was like, well, sales is different than Army. And I'm like, leadership's leadership. So like, you're always going to battle that. And I think it's fair in some aspects because it is different, but you need the experience to combine your leadership style to mend with like your corporate experience. So it's fair in some ways.
I hear that it's different, but at the same time, if you can lead being fired at under the most, challenging of circumstances, as young as you are, with really at times lack of resources, you have to get really resourceful. I hate to say this, but most corporate roles are not that challenging. It requires some training and some knowledge. But once those people invest in you and deposit that in you, everything is trainable. If you have that capability to lead, everything in corporate America is trainable.
Yeah, and it's sad. Bud used to say this, Bud Langston. He was like, hey, you're going to want to come in here because military leadership's different. You're going to want to show your leadership ability. Don't.
So
And
true.
I was like, why? He's like, because you're going to be a threat.
Yep.
So we're taught, and it's good advice. You got to pick your spaces to do it, right? And it's good advice. But once you get a leadership role like I have now, it's almost like just waiting your turn, right? Just waiting your turn. And, it took me a while to get here, but I waited my turn, and now I'm able to kind of, combine all the, 12, 14 years of sales experience with military leadership and kind of do it the way I think it should be done, which is that like servant leader type thing. Because there's not a lot of that in corporate. It's a lot of like, what have you done for me lately? And they don't.
Did you make me $1 today?
Did you make me $1 today? It's all about numbers, rather than they don't realize the number one asset in your company is the people below you. Just like the number one asset in like the world is our children, right? They're the future. Everyone's different. It's not one written rule. Like Mark learns different than Herb or Corey, right? So like you really have to understand your people. Then you also have to realize people are emotional, and like when you're a leader, when shit goes bad, it's your fault. When shit goes right, it's their fault. You got to learn that. It's a thankless job. So if you're in a leadership position to get clout, like you should get out, because people are going to read right through it. And unfortunately, a lot of people are in leadership positions to get clout.
And I think you also touched on something that I know has been an important part of your sales success. Mm-hmm. You mentioned that when you tried to give the polished presentation to the gentleman to try and sell to his friend, that it wasn't successful. And then you turned, you relaxed, and you just focused on building a relationship. And I know you've spoken a lot with us personally about how sales is not that polished, formatted, presentation, and all about relationships. So I think that's been a big part of your success as well.
Yeah. Once I stopped caring about the fact that I'm different, and, I've got, you can see sleeve tattoos. I'm a little ghetto at times. Like, you know what I mean? Like the way we grew up, like I'm a little rough around the edges.
And plus the time at Fort Hood probably didn't help take any of that
time
away.
At Fort Hood, my upbringing, like just different. But that's who I am. Right. But if you get to know me, like I'll give you the shirt off my back. Like that's who I am. Once I was professional, but myself, and unapologetically me, but in a professional manner, my sales skyrocketed. When I stopped trying to do Sandler training and stopped trying to be some Harvard graduate dude that probably couldn't even squeeze a trigger without like crying. And when I stopped trying to be guys that I was never going to be, because when you first get in, you think that's what you got to be, almost like you're trying to emulate a soldier. And I started being myself and accepted that me being different is my superpower. It changed.
Authenticity. And being authentic is what builds relationships. And
it changed for me because I'm still young at the time when I started as an inside sales guy, right? And you want to get to the field and you're kind of treated like shit. So you're looking at all the successful people and you think, I got to be like that, right? So you're trying to like do it, but then you start getting comfortable on your own. The more you do it, the more confident you get. And then you realize like, wow, this is easy. I'm just having a conversation. And then you start, the more reps you get, just like shooting, the more reps you get, you start seeing the problem before it happens. You understand what they're asking. You've been there. You've done that. So like, yeah, I'm very, very people driven in my sales process. I'm not like a process orientated guy, but I'm very like, I need to understand people that I'm working with and what drives them. What do they want? How are they going to act? Like, and then trust is another thing. So for everyone getting out in sales, trust is your number one differentiator. People can sniff a mile away if you're just trying to sell them and roll. They know it's a transaction. They need something. But if you're going to be there for them when there's not a sale, like, hey, man, call me anytime it is, and you're not bullshitting, like, they'll remember that. Be a person. People. There's plenty of people you bought stuff from. You're like, man, that was a cool dude. You know what I mean? And he still follows up with me. Good dude. I met a relationship with him or her.
Every time you need something, we always go, who do we know that works in? Yeah. Because it's the relationship. It's not that we were buying something at that time.
Yeah, trust. And as I'm building the sales team here at Blackline, like the number one question I ask, how do you build trust very quickly? If I parachute you in a conference room, how are you building trust? You know what I mean? And what's your method for that?
And in my mind, it's always one day at a time.
The first year or two, I would say it was like, I'm not successful. I quit life. I just walked out of Lifetime one day. I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. Like, I think my boss said something to me kind of sly, and I was like, dude, I could literally like rip your throat out and show it to you. And like, I was still in that mindset, right? Of like, you haven't done what I've done. Like, 8 months ago, I was in Afghanistan, right? So I was only I still hadn't interviewed yet for Oracle, even though I was in the pipeline, so I didn't know that was going to happen. So like I just left with no plan, nothing. I just walked out and I was like, yeah, do something. Like hoping he was going to follow me to the parking lot, but he didn't. Yeah, no, he didn't.
Thankfully.
Yeah, and thankfully, but he could have, I don't know, he could have been like a jujitsu master or something. I got my ass whipped. I had that attitude, and I think a lot of military guys have that attitude because it is like a sense of power in a way where you can walk, and it's not fair to civilians. Like you can walk in. Everywhere I go, for the most part, I know no one's been through what I've been through, right? So you do have this confidence, and sometimes it's not fair, but it just is what it is, right? And you start learning how to deal with it and not being as arrogant about it. So that happened. So I think the first couple of years I was there, then I went like straight into Oracle, and I was like heads down and being successful, right? Went to Salesforce, successful, and I was fine. There was nothing, but it wasn't. So that was what, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. It was right around like 18. And mine was kind of delayed where like the depression started sitting in, where I made, you know what it was? In tech sales, you go from like inside sales, and your pinnacle is like the field, right? Field sales where you run the account. And I was thinking everything's going to be gravy once I get there. I got there and nothing changed mentally. So like, I'm like, oh, so like, Camilla was born, my daughter, and like that was like a super rough time for me. Like I don't know what was wrong with it. It almost feels like the flu. You know what I mean? Like depression can be like a flu, and you don't know. Like it does. It's not just mentally; it takes over you physically, and it you feel sick, and then you feel like you're a burden. You don't talk about it. You don't want to. You feel like nobody wants to hear you. No one's going through it. That's your fault. That's not anyone else's. You have people that'll help you, but that's just your own, especially military. Cause like, I'm a big believer that the military is very bad at getting people to admit they need help, because especially in the infantry, if I were to tell someone I needed help, they would take my weapon from me. They'd put a row guard when I went in.
Not to mention like the peer culture, like the 100%. Things that would be said to you or the way you'd be treated.
You're a pussy. And like, I was not going to do that, but I don't think I had issues in the military, to be fair, right? I don't think my thing is necessarily PTSD, even though it is. I think mine is like a lost sense of purpose, identity, and community. I wasn't successful, right? When I joined, I was searching for something, war. I chased war. I got it. And then I was like, cool, everything's going to change at that point. And I get out, and now I'm not this dude that walks in a room with a maroon beret that instantly. And here's another thing about the military that I was thinking about the other day. When you get a Ranger tab, you get a CIB, you get whatever, that's with you forever. Like you walk in with those badges and everyone's like, this is a bad motherfucker. Now, and especially in sales, you could have a great quarter, but as soon as, day one hits of the next quarter, it's like, what are you?
Just Mark.
Just Mark. So there's nothing to hide behind. I dealt with that a lot, to the point where I didn't think I was going to make it. And luckily, I've talked about this a lot of the times, like I found a purpose in my daughter. You know what I mean? So like there were times it was close, and it was really close. I had a Glock sitting in front of me and probably shouldn't have. And I'm drinking, and, right before probably I considered myself a 50-meter target. You know what I mean? I would think about, oh, it's 2:00 in the morning. Camilla's got to get to school at 7. That was my job. So like really getting her to school was like, that was what kept me going. And even now when it sets in, I take Junior to school. Yeah. And it started, especially when I went through Tribal, the movie and stuff like that, it started bringing back memories and things like that. It's heavy. And times like this, especially right now, the slow months is when it kicks in. Junior keeps me busy. He needs me. Camilla still needs me, but she's team mom now. They're in dance and all that stuff. Like they're best of friends, but Junior's my guy. He needs me. I pick him up. I put him to bed. It keeps me as like, they can't replace dad. You know what I mean? So my kids have saved me, and they are my purpose. They're why I work so hard. I think they're also why I started being authentically me. And my kids and my wife were really what saved me. Because without them, I probably would have been a statistic, no doubt.
And that's the thing that I think is so important for people to understand is there's a lot of misnomers around PTSD, or there's a lot of misnomers around understanding what leads people to this issue. And just as you mentioned it, there are things that sometimes revisit old wounds or may expose things that have not been dealt with. And I know for her, that was something that, that it was an exposure of things that had been left that really led to him having some struggles, and it comes down to, everyone taking responsibility for their own well-being and being able to then step into it. But then you have to have powerful people beside you to help with that as well. So shout out to Joanna.
Yeah,
for
shout
all
out.
that
She
she's
just asked me
done.
the other day, and I said no. I'm still stubborn. I think I've learned to deal with it my own way, but at some point the kids ain't gonna need me, right? She's like, why don't you just talk to somebody? I'm still not ready.
Sure.
I will talk in forums like this.
Sure.
But I'm still not ready, and she's trying to help me, and I'm still not ready. Like, because at some point, the kids are going to be in high school and stuff like that. They're not going to need dad anymore, and what's that future look like? I'm still that.
I'm not a licensed counselor or trained anything, but I can tell you, just talking about it helps. I don't care if it's, to me, it used to be the dog. Liberty Speaks is our company. That's where Liberty came from. Like, the dog saved me before I found Corrie, right? It's how I got to meet Corrie, was the dog saved me, like talking to the dog.
Yeah.
So I think talk to is good. You have to be ready to talk.
Yeah.
And whether that's Corrie and I talking it out, right?
Yeah.
Or me to a therapist.
Or creating a sense of community.
Yeah. But
and
you got to have,
you've done that, right?
You got to be okay to talk. And you've done that. You decide, hey, you know what? I'm going to put like 6 figures of my own money into making a film.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to insult you, but I don't think you knew shit about filmmaking.
I didn't know a fucking thing.
And you go, hey, I'm going to make a film because I see this happening. Yeah. Talk us through Tribal and how you got into that.
Yeah, it's great. So basically what happened was me being me, and not at this time, I didn't know if like software sales was for me. So I was very entrepreneurial, and I started this business that didn't go anywhere and dumped money into it, which was like a door-to-door trash service. So like for people that live in luxury apartments, they can just put their garbage can that has our logo on the outside of it, and then we take it from point A to point B to the trash compactor, right? Because you got to take your stuff to the trash compactor. And it's called valet trash service, and I thought it could be really, I saw it in North Carolina, and I was like, I'm going to do a veteran-focused one. Veterans waste disposal, you know what I mean? Didn't do anything, but I basically I went on Upwork, and I found somebody to do my website, Louis Borrego, and his partner is his brother, Brandon Borrego, the Borrego brothers. So they were doing my website, and then I found out they do videos. And so they did a commercial for us. Joanna was a part of it. She came in there. My best friend Jerry was a part of it. We flew over there, rented out an Airbnb, and did this commercial of like veterans waste disposal, our mission and stuff, right? And then right before they're handing over the website to me, because they were building it and they were going to give the keys to me, Lucas just killed himself the night before. So Lucas was number 8. I was out from 2013.
Of the soldiers you served with?
In my company. So in a company of 150, either they were in my platoon or I knew them very closely. It wasn't like a guy I, had a cup of coffee with or was in basic. It was like either my time in Fort Hood or my time in Fort Bragg that I know of. And there's probably more, because a lot of people go dark, but like guys that I know of. He was number 8, and like it was like 1 a year, like clockwork. So I was pretty beaten up about that. So we get on the phone. He's supposed to be handing this over to me. And I just start venting about Lucas, right? Like, oh man, I remember this kid, I was the first person that welcomed in the 82nd, we weren't like super close, but I knew him, right? And actually his ex-wife was friends with Joanna. Like I knew the kid. Louis, good dude, just listened. And then I told him, I was like, man, I have this idea. Like I always feel like I'm still Sergeant Kershaw, and I wish I could like tell these kids, that it's okay and talk to somebody. And I had this idea of this documentary where I could take 3 guys that didn't know each other that saw intense combat, because that's what people want to see, and take the audience through like different stories that they can resonate with, and on a moment's notice, flip it on its head, what we did in Tribal, and tell the truth of what it's like reintegrating in society after war. We got off phone. Fast forward, Junior's born, right? April 20th, 2022, he's born. Maybe like a month or 2 later, like when you have kids, you do the shifts. Yeah. So you guys like sleep a little bit. So it was my shift for Junior. And I'm just like, he's got his bassinet, and I'm like feeding him. And I get a text message at like 2:30 in the morning. And I don't have like, you can't see my previews because I got some wild texts from my friends. I don't want to get fired. So like, it just says the dude's name, text message. And I was like, man, it's 2:30 in the morning. I'm exhausted. I'll talk to him tomorrow. And it's someone I served with. And so I'm in the gym the next day, maybe like 8 in the morning. And I'm like, oh, let me see what so-and-so said. And I read the text message. It's like, hey man, I'm in a really dark place. I need to talk to someone right now. I'm like, man, fuck. Another one. Try to call him. To me 48 hours to get a hold of him. Finally, I get a hold of him and he's good. And he's like, thank you. And I gave some choice words to him and said, man, don't do that to me again. Call me. And even though he did, right? It was my fault for not picking up. Life happens again. And that one really struck it because when Stoff killed himself, who was my saw gunner I was telling you about, like, badass, man. Stoff was the man. Like he popped hot for coke and because he was in the scout platoon and then he came to our platoon. And at the time, I was like, this dude's a piece of shit, right?
Pop top means to be tested positive.
To be tested, right? You know, it happens. Kids go on like leave or whatever, and they hang out the old people. They're not bad soldiers, but you get a stigma, right? So he comes to my platoon, and Wiedemeyer had gone through that. At the time, my platoon sergeant had gone through that, so he knew the kid, and he wanted to give him a chance. He's like, hey, I'm gonna stick him with you. I was like, man, why do you always stick the shit bags with me, man? Like, he's like, well, you'll understand him. I was like, what am I, a shit bag? Like, what?
You'll understand.
You'll understand him. Man, I'll tell you what, he listened, good kid, great at PT, very proficient, went to Ranger school, like turned his life around, ended up blowing his head off in front of his wife, you know? And we went to Virginia Beach. We drove down there and that was before I went to 3rd Platoon, when I got hurt. And when I went back in, they stuck me in 3rd Platoon because they had a mass DUI out of 3 guys. So like they got decimated NCOs. They did a switch right before the deployment. So I was 2nd Platoon the majority of my time in the 82nd. So I met up with all the 2nd Platoon guys, and then I just turned and burned once, you know, I paid my respects to Stoff, drove back up to here. And then Joanna was like, how'd it go? And I was telling her, and like what came out of my mouth, I was like, Hill's gonna be next. What do you mean? AJ? Who was my best friend? AJ Hill. Looked like Thor. Had veins in his teeth, man. The dude was like badass,
Ripped.
right? Ripped, could do everything. A story about him in the Q course. You know how they play like fuck games in the Q course? He was kind of like middle of the pack, passing everything with ease. And then they did something with like, hey, you guys are going to get sleep. And then they came in and was like, put the ruck on. And he was like, this is like a famous story. He was like, I'm not playing these games today. He came in an hour before anyone else. He just decided one day, I'm going to actually try. I'm going to actually try. And that was him. I was his squad leader. He was my team leader. I raised him. We called each other Dragon and Slayer because Wiedemeyer hated that we called each other by our first name. So to piss off Wiedemeyer, he was Dragon, I was Slayer. Together we were Dragon Slayer, and he hated it. My best friend, him and Slaughter.
Like those reels where it's like, this isn't a 2-person job.
Yeah, it was like, Dragon and Slayer, kind of like Step Brothers, where they both go interview at the same time. But a week later, he killed himself. You know, I mean, you can call it what you want, but if you've got every hard drug in your system and everything like that, you're killing yourself. And I didn't reach out. I knew it. And I didn't reach out on Facebook. I knew it was going to happen, and I didn't. So I carried that guilt. So one, you know, I've shared foxholes with him and everything like that. I didn't know anything about his childhood. I think he grew up in a foster home. Mm-hmm. So I think Hill carried some trauma before. And then he went to he went selection, torch selection, and got a DUI. So he was kicked out the Q Corps. He got like massive. So I think he got into other stuff. Like he got jacked. Yeah. And he was like hanging around, like, I think, biker stuff like Hell's Angels or whatever, but like he wasn't a partier. Like Hill was pretty quiet, and I mean he partied like everyone else, but it wasn't like egregious like some of my squads did. Like not me, because at this time I was a leader. But like I had to look after. I mean, Joanna knows them, Tolley, Scheibine, Barcelo, all these guys. Man, they were every time I'd be like, just show up to formation. You know what I mean? He wasn't like that. Hill had his stuff together. It was afterwards he went into a dark place. Yeah.
So you end up losing a lot of guys after, not to war, to the demons.
Yeah, more to suicide than the combat. Like 4 times. It should be preventable, and I don't know what it is. I still don't know what it is, but there's something broken somewhere, and I don't think the VA has it figured out. I don't think any nonprofit has it figured out. Like, I don't know. I think it's very, very hard, especially during the time of war, to experience combat of that adrenaline, being that you're an adrenaline junkie already, you know, jumping out of airplanes, all this stuff, and then get it ripped from you. And I think a lot of athletes go through this, playing in front of like 15,000 people, right?
The team, even if they're like Olympians, you just ran in a stadium of 80,000 people watching the Olympics. Now you're nobody.
Yeah, now I'm making calls to PNC Bank. I think that happens, and it's like, is the rest of my life at 25 years old going to be in first gear? Because I'm never going to experience that again. And you chase the dragon. I tried to be a contractor, triple canopy. I almost did that. 2019, when I was going through this, I looked up every single city that had the highest murder rate per capita, and I applied. And I almost did it. Dallas is actually one of them, surprisingly enough, murder-wise. And I was like, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do SWAT. I was chasing the dragon. You know what I mean? And Slack calls, so I ended up not doing it because financially, like, I'd go from making 6 figures down to like 50, and I didn't care. Like, I was like, I don't care. Like, I just want to do something that I feel is purposeful.
So that's what led you to Tribal?
Yeah, I think that it was trying to do something and not just talking about it. And I felt like Tribal at least could be a message to let people know that you're not the only one going through it. That's why I picked Wade. That's why I picked Michael. That's why I picked Hernandez. They're all decorated. They all saw intense combat. So a lot of even these younger guys that maybe didn't see combat that look up to them are going to be like, oh, these dudes are talking about it, right? Like, it's okay.
So each one of these people has a different experience. And where can people watch that now?
Amazon Prime, Apple TV. You can order it like on cable. It's TRIBAL. It's a Marine holding up dog tags. Yeah, Tribal right there, the T-shirt.
The beard's in the way.
But. Yeah, beard's in the way, but like you can order it. I don't take any money from it. I haven't collected a dime from it. You know, we just want to get it out there. You know, it's not an easy watch, I don't think, but it's an important watch.
Important, impactful, powerful. And for people that have been around the military, it does something to them. But I think more importantly, those that have not been around, they can gain a better understanding. Because you were talking about, like, there is an issue. And I'll be honest, there's a mental health crisis in the United States with everyone, not 100%. Just veterans, you know, and 100%. Like, but now veterans, you put them through war, and the government of the United States, the American people spent a lot of money making me a good killer.
Yeah.
So that becomes a solution. Let's be honest. No matter whether you're infantry or you're a Green Beret, Ranger, SEAL, whatever, like, there's a lot of money put into making sure you know how to end a life. That can become a solution. And you talked about earlier about asking for help. You know how you make it through the Special Forces qualification course? It's not for asking for help.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm going to figure this out and go gut through this at 2 a.m. as we're rucking with the heavy rucks and stuff. So it's, or how do you get through this combat experience? It isn't like, hey, buddy, will you help Johnny Taliban over there? No, it's like, lay down some effing fire. We're going to take them out. So it's the things we need on the backside of it is, hey, how do we ask for help? One, which is not normal for us.
No, it's not.
And then, like, okay, what are them skill sets? Not the killing, the jumping out of airplanes, all that. Like, what's the skill sets to cope with some of these things and to thrive in, you know, the next life?
Yeah, it's different. I mean, so I think, like, if you look at, like, I really studied Sebastian Jonger's book, Tribe. So I got in an argument with Brandon, one half of the Borrego brothers, on my drinking escapade one night when I got the cut of the movie, and I called him, and he was a good sport because I can fly off the handle pretty easily. And I was just like, this needs to be about veterans. I don't think it's about veterans. Blah, 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 blah. And he let me, like, be an asshole for like 30 minutes. And I was like, you don't got anything to say? And Brandon's salt of the earth person. He was like, Mark, this isn't just a veteran problem. It's a societal problem.
Absolutely.
Society's broken, in my opinion. It's broken, and the days of, like, people doing stuff for the community. Because if you think about it, like, Native Americans or people that, you know, you come home to a community, back to factory jobs, like, it's a sense of tribe. I am pulling security for you. I am cooking for you. I am doing this. You go to Reston Town Center, you're exchanging business cards because they want something from you. It's not a community-based sense. It's, I mean, we can't even.
A lot of it's here on social media.
Yeah, no one can get along anymore. Like, and
even veterans amongst veterans are fighting.
It's like monkey shit fights in a zoo a lot of times.
Oh, they're all fighting, especially in, like, the social media realm. Like, people are calling people out. Like, I mean, just let it be, man. Like, I don't call anyone out. Like, I don't do anything like that. You know what I mean? But I think something's broken.
Part of what we're hoping with the show is unity, civility, like, put some good stuff out there. You don't need to attack someone to lift yourself up.
And bringing a culture back of, you know, sitting around and talking. I remember vividly, you know, as a kid, going and stopping by people's houses and just, you know, hanging out with people. You know, it wasn't necessarily a planned thing. That was a normal part of culture back then. But can you imagine just driving through your neighborhood and popping in at somebody's house, even if you haven't met them yet?
Yeah,
it's
so
just not a thing.
now,
it's so foreign now.
Everything's foreign now.
Yeah.
Kids don't walk to the bus stop anymore. And, like, I mean, Wade's such an articulate person. If anyone's never heard Wade speak, I think he's one of the best speakers I've ever known. He's like, you can get everything, you could be in North Dakota and have everything you need delivered to your house and never interact with a soul. He's like, that's not necessarily a good thing. Humans need interactions. And Wade's very articulate.
People need a human connection.
Yeah,
Like,
people
let's
need
be
a human
real.
connection.
But you're working on some other film projects now, right?
The immediate one is the 82nd one. So I'm doing two Panthers, one of the most decorated. They were the Golden Brigade, 3rd Brigade that went to Vietnam. So not every 82nd Brigade went, but they were the Golden Brigade. So there's a lot of history with one Panther and two Panther, which is 1505, 2505. And one deployment no one ever talks about was 2007 was their Samara deployment. You know,
In
there's
Iraq.
in Iraq, there's something called the Samara 7, where they were hit with an IED, then daisy chained, and 7 taken out at one point. There's another one where the scout platoon was on top, just a 2-man scout platoon or a 4-man scout like whatever teams or whatever elements. They were overran by a bunch of Sudanese fighters, like coming up, like something you would see in the movies. And there was a Distinguished Service Cross awarded the 2 of them. So like, I want to talk about that deployment. But so it's going to be different than tribal, but I also want to talk about the history of the Airborne, what makes a paratrooper, like really pay homage to like something that made me who I am and I respect so much, which is the 82nd Airborne, because I've never seen it. Possibly, you know, moving on a full feature of like a Marine film that we're talking to the Marine Corps about and working with them. That's a longer pole in the tent, but we're working it with Wade and a guy named John. Who's writing it. So like there's 2 different things going on. One is a little bit easier because I know how to do it. The other one's taking more of a risk, kind of like a warfare meets Black Hawk Down. But I think in my life, like especially now, I live with so much regret. I think that's really what bothers me.
Have you ever considered, though, I'm a firm believer that God deposits these circumstances of our life intermittently over the years. And then eventually one day we're exactly where we're supposed to be at exactly the right time, doing the exact things we're supposed to do to help others. Have you ever considered that maybe all those things happened the way that they happened to position you where you are today, and how many people you're probably touching so much more impactful than what you could have done anything overseas to actually help your brothers and sisters?
Yeah. Joanna tells me that all the time. I'm not very good at stopping the mission and looking up for the success. Like as soon as I finish something, I'm on to the next. I don't think I'm very successful. Like, I don't think I'm very successful at all. And Joanna has to tell me, like, do you realize what you've done? But I don't think it's good enough.
Even if you've just saved one person, which I know you have.
Yeah,
I know many people have come to you.
I know you've saved more than one. I've seen it.
Yeah.
People by the dozens. You never know that life you change, and you have. But that's the interesting thing, right? We're talking about driven, and how do you do all this stuff is by having that mindset. So how do you turn that off to go, let me enjoy this for a moment?
Now I'm very, very big on like providing a life for my family that I never had. And the higher up you go, the more responsibility. So it's like, you know, no one thought I'd be where I am running a whole federal practice. And now it's like, I'm gonna prove all you motherfuckers wrong. Like, I'm gonna show you how it's done. And that takes time, that takes energy. So like, even in like slow months like this, government shutdown, I sell to the government. There's days where I'm like freaking out because I'm like, man, I don't have a meeting. Like, what? I'm freaking out. Like, I have to be moving towards something. And if I'm not moving towards something, like, I'm very depressed. I have to be moving towards an objective. And that's why I'm good at juggling multiple things, because it keeps me busy, right? And maybe that's how I deal with it.
Did you know that your brain actually gets conditioned in combat to deal with chaos? And when the chaos subsides, then your brain gets uneasy because it's been trained to thrive under those circumstances.
And you may start to make the chaos so you're comfortable.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it has.
You told me about that.
I had to see it, man. I was creating chaos just because, like, I don't feel normal when other people feel normal. I feel normal when shit's hitting the fan. So, it's normal. Let's make shit hit the fan. And not in a professional sense. For me, it was all personal sense. I was able to separate it.
Interesting. Like you said earlier, like, go pick a fight.
Yeah, no, that's what it is.
Yeah, go pick. I mean, like, I just function. And I think it's like I think it's a superpower. I know I'm not the smartest guy in the room. I don't have a degree. I wasn't raised. No one in my family did tech sales. Everyone worked for the government or the army, right? My mom was a teacher. My dad was a light colonel, lieutenant colonel. My grandfather was a full-bird colonel. Like, no one did business or anything like that. I don't have that upbringing. No one can coach me. My superpower is I outwork everybody. Like, when you're saying it's too hard, or when I hear no from people, my brain goes, there has to be a way. I go to problem-solving mode. So I think that's how I've been successful. And what's sad is, like, I feel like if I don't have that, or I don't have that chaos where no one else likes to do it, but I'm the guy that fixes it, who am I? well, that's my superpower. You know what I mean? So like it helps me get to where I am. I get burned out sometimes, and I have a day where I'm just like, man, I just gotta chill every once in a while. But that's just because like I'm drained, right? But yeah, that's how I've been able to climb and be who I am. Yeah, still be to where I am and do it fun. And
we have Veterans Day coming up. How do you feel about Veterans Day?
I didn't really care, because I don't like Applebee's, and that's the only place you can go to get something like free.
Wait, but there's IHOP.
Yeah, I love IHOP. I don't know that I would have gone to IHOP. But and they kind of give you like a shitty menu too.
Yeah.
Like you can get like what, like
Two small
toast,
pancakes,
and like water. Like come on, guys. Our school's awesome. They do a Veterans Day parade where we go in, and seeing my daughter, like how proud she is. That was it for me. I'm doing it again next Friday, and I love it. Like, do I care about it? No, but like seeing how proud she is, that's it for me. And with Junior, so like, she got to dress up one day, and she wore like my boonie that probably still has like Iraqi sand on it, which is kind of gross.
Like camouflage.
Yeah, but she wore that. You know what I mean? So like, that's when I started appreciating it. Is like, she's proud of me, right? My wife's proud of me. Am I proud of what I've done? No, I feel like I left, like, I don't know if you've ever seen my wall, but it's all my awards, kind of similar to you. Everyone's like, man, that's great. Look at everything you've done. What I see is disappointment of the shit I didn't accomplish. There's so much more I could have done, man. Like if I would have had the mindset I have now at 38, 39, back when I was 25, man, I don't know what I could accomplish, right? And that's what I try to instill in my son now. And my daughter is like, I didn't have someone guiding me like that. And I tell Junior and Camilla every day, like she's at dance, I don't know, 15 hours a week. And, Joanna's in charge of that. But like the only thing I provide is like that work ethic, right? Like work harder, 1% better every day. And I wish I had that younger in that mindset of like, so you don't live with regret, because regret sucks. I think regret sucks more than anything.
As a former dancer, I have to say that commitment to that level of an amount of dance too, I'm sure that you have also instilled in her that like, don't give up, don't quit. You've committed to this. You have a team. Don't let your team down. So it is, that's a great skill to be able to impart on her.
And Joanna's been very big at that, right? Like I'll say little moments, but my daughter is a little girl. She'll be like, these emotions start going this way and that way, and I'm just like, oh,
get ready.
Yeah. So like, Joanna's very much better at dealing with that, and she was in the military, and she sees it, or she was a spouse in the military, and she's done corporate sales and all this stuff. She gets it too, and we come from the same walk of life. So I think we want to give our kids a better life than we had. So she's all over it. You know what I mean? And she shows her. So like Junior, my little Thundercat, that dude's gonna be like, I've got, I just want him to like not live with regret. I don't care what you do what you want and give it your all. Leave it all on the field, right? Or leave it on the stage, leave it all in the classroom, wherever you want to do, but don't live with regret, because regret sucks. It sucks.
Amen.
Yeah.
What do you value most in life?
Family. Easy. Because without my family, I wouldn't be here.
We're grateful you came on, Mark, opened up your brain and your heart, and were candid with us. I know connect with the audience. We really appreciate you coming on, and Joanna over there with the encouragement. So thank you, buddy. I appreciate it.
No, thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. And I appreciate it. Look forward to the next one.
Subscribe, like, and comment. And don't forget to set those notifications. We'll see you next week with another special guest.
Until then, own your journey.